Let's dive in a little deeper to WEF and Davos and some of the narratives with crypto and what it might mean for you guys. So you guys don't want to miss it. My name is Paul Barron. Welcome back into Tech Path. Before we get started, I want to thank our sponsor, Tangem. If you're looking at self-custody, this is one of the slickest options you have out there. Just go over to their website, click on that Get Tangem button, and you're going to find yourself in, I think, self-custody heaven. And that is the cards, the app, it all works together. Choose the 3-card set, use our link down below, and you can start your journey on self-custody as well. All right, so I want to get into a few topics here on WEF day 3. Listen, first of all, lots of crypto companies there. You'll be surprised, I think, at the ones that we're going to talk about today, so don't miss it. But a point or two that I want to hit on is go back to the pre-WEF. And the reason is because what's happening at WEF right now, I think, was almost pent up in the sense of what was happening with the Bitcoin ETF. So what I mean by that is the success. Here was Eric Balchunas talking about, let me put it into context. This is how insane, let me zoom in on that for you guys, how insane a 10 billion in volume in the first 3 days is. This is, there were 500 ETFs launched in 2023. This is greater than all of those combined. So pretty significant issue here, I think somewhat historic when you think about ETFs in general. And even Larry Fink was talking about this the last time. We've had a couple of video clips, but he's talking about this is a next evolution of ETFs. What I took from that the last time he said that was ETH ETFs. All right, so here's another tweet right here, just talking a little bit about ARK selling their BITO. Of course, this was to buy their own spot Bitcoin ETF in ARK-B, which is its next generation internet ETF. Think of it, they're more innovative. So you're going to see a lot of this, I think, in terms of strategies. It also starts to expose the ETF from other investment pools. So another big option there. And then, of course, BlackRock coming in with now 16,000 Bitcoins for its new ETF is obviously kind of reshaping what's happening in crypto overall. So this is still a big narrative, and I think it took off at WEF. And I think that has also brought in a lot of different perspectives. So I want to go to the first clip here. This first clip gets into a little bit about Jamie Dimon, of course, what he likes, what he doesn't like on crypto. Listen in.
Cryptocurrencies, there are two types. There's a cryptocurrency which might actually do something. Think of a cryptocurrency as an embedded smart contract in it, and that we can use it to buy and sell real estate and move data. That may have value.
The idea of tokenizing things.
Tokenizing things that you do something with. And then there's one which does nothing. I call it the pet rock, the Bitcoin or something like that.
All right, so obviously he's talking about Ethereum and Ethereum type blockchain assets out there. So interesting that he is leaning in a little bit toward what is away from Bitcoin, because obviously the biggest asset class in the room right now being Bitcoin and what BlackRock has been able to do with it. He goes further into this because he kind of doubles down on this. Listen in.
First, and I'm not trying to make a joke here. There are use cases, AML, fraud, anti-money laundering, tax avoidance, sex trafficking. Those are real use cases, and you see it being used for hundreds, maybe 50 or $100 billion a year for that. That is the end use case. Everything else is people train among themselves. So
speculate.
Yeah. Now, I defend your right to do Bitcoin. My personal advice would be don't get involved, but I don't want to tell any one of you what to do. It's a free country.
Let's just remember that fiat is still king of the hill when it comes to those kind of activities, nefarious. But there's a little bit here politically. This next clip is a little bit more that will align the two hemispheres here. You'll get the picture. Take a look at this one.
Can you explain why crypto is such an attractive financial tool for terrorists?
If I was the government, I'd close it down.
All right, so as you can see, I mean, he's basically saying, we don't want you to own it. You know, it has too much sovereignty. That's the big problem, I think, with all digital assets. And the funny thing is that I don't think he completely realizes that there's a lot of opportunity on the token side here for other digital assets out there that he does, I think, prop up in the sense of just tokenized securities and what we will see in terms of real world assets being tokenized. So a lot being mentioned on this very topic at WEF, which is a bit surprising, but not too much. So this last clip, also Dimon, but he's going back and forth with the CNBC host, which is weird to me, of traditional media actually defending Bitcoin. Listen in.
The BlackRocks of the world that obviously, and Larry Fink changed his view of this, obviously.
Yeah.
But what do you think of there's about a dozen big financial companies, Fidelity included.
Number one, I don't care. So just please stop talking about this shit. And people have opinions. This is the last time I'm ever going to state my opinion.
Gold really didn't do anything either.
Yeah, but gold's limited in supply.
So is Bitcoin.
And it's been used. So you think so, huh? Satoshi's going to come on there, laugh hysterically, go quiet, all Bitcoin's going to be erased.
I think, man.
How the hell do you know it's going to stop at 21? I've never met one person who told me they know for a fact. They take that
mathematically, it can't happen because by the last one will be mined in 2150, and it gets harder and harder every time there's another halving. But Jamie, looking back over,
you guys do what you want, I'll do what I want.
As for gold, you can the 6 characteristics that make gold valuable for 4,000 years. They're all present in Bitcoin. That's all I'll say. And I love you, and I don't want to. And I also don't want to be a.
You may, Joe. You may be right.
Yeah.
Like I don't own gold either. So okay.
That's what I mean.
All right, interesting. CNBC, we've seen a financial network now really stepping up. I think they're seeing a little bit about what the future is here in terms of just crypto assets in general. So defense, interesting. Yesterday we did a video on WEF Day 2. Within that video, Adina Friedman, who was the NASDAQ chair and CEO, came on, talked a little bit about what the potential is here for a boom with IPOs. Now, what does that mean for crypto? Possible ICOs? Maybe. I want to go to this next clip. This will give you a little bit more of an insight of the New York Stock Exchange CEO talking about IPOs coming in. Listen in.
No, we had one of their, what's Adina? She's a friend of me? No, she's a friend. She's a competitor, right? Okay, but you do obviously have similar landscapes that you do. So she says there's no doubt that 100 companies have at least intimated that something's going to happen.
Yeah, it's a great thing. And I'm incredibly optimistic about 2024. And the pipeline of companies that we're working with. We actually had an IPO last week to open the markets who had an incredibly successful IPO, particularly given the industry that they operate in, priced at the high end of the range. Stock opened up 15% on IPO day and has continued to trade at that level. Gives us a lot of reason for optimism. And we're working with quite a few companies who are on the road at the moment to debut them in the next couple of weeks. So I think you're going to start to see some companies come out in the next couple of weeks, not just in the next couple of months. When you actually IPO on the New York Stock Exchange, you've achieved something extraordinary. You haven't just gotten past the SEC bar, you've achieved our own regulatory.
That's why
All right, so that is a good that's a good narrative, I think, when you look at just the condition of the markets and the potential for ICOs, other upstarts kind of coming into the space, and much like what we saw in many of the bull runs of past. So good to see that coming in terms of IPOs. This was Smith Douglas, just a recent one that went out, nothing to do with crypto, but the point being is that this IPO actually held on that first day. So that's all good signs. These are good signs in terms of the markets overall. Further into WEF, this is Sandy from Unstoppable Domains. We've had her on the show a couple of times, and she's just going through the Web3 companies that were at Davos. And you can kind of see the list there: Ledger, Hedera, Coinbase, Unstoppable. For those of you listening on the podcast, we're just kind of going through the whole list here. Sandbox is there, Animoca, and so on. The point being is that there's a big contingent at Davos. And I think this is a good sign, but also a cautious sign. WEF has a reputation. And I think the key here is to how does this play out in the future around a lot of these different projects, but more importantly for the crypto markets in general. I think the thing that really has become the big issue here is that now global elites and the future of finance is starting to take this in as a real asset class. I want to go to a clip she had around the themes of Davos. You might be surprised. Listen in.
Hi, here we are at Davos again, but I have to tell you, a couple of themes have been emerging. One, Web3 is not dead, it's here everywhere. Blockchain hub, crypto house. We just did a Web3 day. I just finished a panel on Web3 and AI. It is everywhere here at Davos. But the second theme that's emerging is one that you would imagine, which is right here, which is the AI house. We're seeing AI everywhere, but it's not just about AI. It's about how blockchain and AI are working together, that they must work together. And then I think the third big theme that we're hearing about here is trust. It is the biggest theme of the day. It applies to technology like trust verification that happens with your unstoppable digital identity. Those are the top three themes for the day. And
now, granted, unstoppable digital identity. Yes, if AI is a threat, to authenticity, unstoppable is going to win. But I think that if you look at it, blockchain as a narrative wins here. The key here is whether or not companies and entities out there, especially within the finance system, really understand how to implement this. Is it early days for this, or is this maybe the beginning of something very special? Yat Sui's been on our show a couple of times. He's there, and he talks a little bit more in depth around where blockchain and AI potentially have some conflicts. Listen in.
In the previous session, mentioned that the SEC of the United States recently approved the Bitcoin ETF, but even in that case, I believe the SEC Commissioner Gary Gensler is very cautious, worried about retail investors. I'm going to quote Gary Gensler again. He in October mentioned that I can see AI can be the next reason for systematic risk. And what he meant was, if we are all using the same data, same algorithm, when people trade in the same way, it can be leading to the market failure.
When you are able to sort of replicate anything on AI, do you actually know whether it's authentic or not? Do you know whether it's actually real or not, in the sense that it can be copied? Whether it was a magazine, then it became a website, maybe it was Google, right? These became the gatekeepers. They became our oracle of truth, right? But today, what is our oracle of truth? We don't even know what that is, right? And that's precisely why I think blockchain is interesting, because at the source of the news or the content, you can now authenticate basically through cryptographic hashes something that is unique and certified that it is original. Whether the news is good or bad is almost not important. What's more important is who it's from.
So you can kind of see Yat Sui, he understands the mix here of culture, the need for blockchain, but especially I think for the provenance of just Web3 and what it might mean in terms of really defining identity of the future. And I would agree, gosh, I'm not going to say this word, but I would agree with the SEC in the sense that, yeah, there could be problems down here in the future. So it is one of the things that I think we're going to see really become a big narrative for 2024. Speaking of the SEC, we got to talk about the Coinbase case. That's happening, or just happened, I should say, today. The hearing occurred. Judge Faye got a chance to listen in to both Coinbase and the SEC with their arguments. And based on what we've heard from the day, we're going to do a full video for you guys to give you a full rundown. And then we're also going to have Meta Lawman later this week. So his response right here, a little early, was just the update. Hearing will begin at 10. Expect to go mid-afternoon. Judge will not rule today. That, in fact, did happen. She did not rule from the bench, meaning she's going to go back, assess this. Remember, though, that there's a lot of activity. Now, John Deaton said something that I thought was interesting, and that was the motion to deny at this stage, I would have less than a 5% chance. I'm not saying Coinbase is going to win, but I believe that this motion to deny has more teeth in it than the usual one. So I would agree as well. From what we heard on the call today, very interesting positioning by this judge. Now, this judge is very savvy and also very aware of what's happening in blockchain. Both those things are beneficial to Coinbase. In my opinion, Coinbase is going to win this. It looks as though the judge is going to rule in their favor. I just think it's going to be an interesting strategy and how this goes forward. Because if you think about this going to trial, there could be a position where the judge maybe takes it a little bit further and, kind of wipes the floor with the SEC. Or do you win short term and becomes more of an embarrassment for the SEC? I don't know which one is better, but either is good, I think, for crypto in general. Eleanor Terrett does a good job on wrapping it up. She was there covering, so she did a full adjournment tweet. I'd suggest that you guys go in, read it a little bit, get familiar with it if you are investing in crypto or if you're getting into any of these kind of projects. This is a good case to follow because this has a lot of implications on the future of it. Remember, this case, or I should say, this case being presided over by the same judge that presided over the Uniswap case, which was a class action suit that ended up getting thrown out. So also another scenario. And remember, within that one, there was a couple of points I wanted to hit on. The court finds smart contracts were themselves able to be carried out lawfully. All of this happened. ETH and Bitcoin were commodities. All that was defined in that dismissal in that suit. So all good positivity for, I think, the future here. Just as a reminder, these are the securities that the SEC named in the suit against Coinbase. And a lot of these are, well-recognized tokens that you probably will see. There was Chili's. Chili's was mentioned today on the call. They do a tremendous amount of promotion, so I can see that. Chili's also been running here recently, but Flow, this is one of the more low-cap version of the tokens that are out there. ICP was in there. And then you've got Solana even on there. Cardano, of course, and Matic, some of the big ones that obviously we know about. Anyway, like I said, we're gonna do a full rundown for you guys, give you a full update on what's happening with the Coinbase case. We'll cover maybe a wrap up from WEF. I'm not completely sure what we'll go into, but we will get MetaLaw on this week as well to really break down what is going to happen next. So make sure and stick around for all that good stuff. If you're not in the Diamond Circle, make sure and get in right now. It's a great place to get additional content, and you can get our additional podcasts, research, all that good stuff over there. If you follow me out there on X, I'll say hi. It's @PaulBaron. We'll catch you next time right here on TechPath.